Hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet Lakers, driven by your Southern California Honda dealers. I'm Chris McGee, the Hall of Famer Big Game James Worthy. Robert Ory is here, the 7-time champ. Brez will be joining us in a little bit. You got Allie and Trudell handling the post-game show. The Lakers fall to the Phoenix Suns in 6 games. The hopes of a repeat comes to an end in the first round, guys. And listen, the Suns came out on fire and really set the tone and took it to the Lakers in that first quarter. 10 threes. They built up a 21-point lead. Devin Booker was 6 for 6 from 3 to start the game. And from there, James and Rob, it was just an uphill battle. The Lakers tried to claw their way back in. They had some spurts, but in the end, Suns just too much.
And I think that's where you have to start. I think you have to start with Coach Monty over at Phoenix. Did an outstanding job as a coach assembling this team. And then they brought it to his system. It's, like I said, it's not by accident that Phoenix, is winning and playing well. They've been like this all season long behind the leadership of CP3 on the floor. He really enhanced Booker's game. They had some really good, support players and Crowder and Payne and Bridges and Ayton. So they're a really good basketball team. Unfortunately for the Lakers, all season long, they just never were able to get the continuity together, get everybody on the same floor at the same time. AD out, LeBron out, Gasol out. No excuses. I'm not making excuses. The whole team kind of went through that. But they never had a chance to really, defend their championship in full. And they always seem to play from behind. They made some mistakes. They didn't come out with the intensity that they needed in some games, and then they found themselves playing from behind as they did tonight. And you just can't win that way. Obviously, losing AD was a big issue, but it just didn't seem like they were able to respond with what they had.
Yeah, this is one of those games, and you think after getting blown out in Phoenix, you would come out with a sense of urgency. They did, but it was just too much Booker. And it was too much Crowder. Crowder was 4 for 4, I think, to start that game. And you would have never thought that these guys would shoot that great. Not good, great on the Lakers floor. And when you run into a buzzsaw like that and then you lose one of your key players, it's hard to climb out of that ditch. But you got to give the Lakers credit. They fought hard, but Phoenix Suns was just too good tonight. And that happens in the NBA playoffs. You run into a team that's just too good, and then you have to go home.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Lakers in a moment. Let's stay with the Suns on this one. 18 of 35, 51% from 3. And to be a star in this league, a true star, you have to do it on the big stage. That's when you've really arrived, when you can do it in a closeout game, when you can take over. And that's what Devin Booker did, guys. I mean, he started this game 6 for 6. He had 22 in the first. He had 33 at half. He had 43 at the end of 3, and then he ends up with 47. He's 8 for 10 from 3, James, and he was a problem. And the Lakers just could not stop him. And when they needed a bucket, anytime the Lakers tried to get back in it, James, and they had life and that crowd was going, it was Devin Booker that quieted the crowd.
Yeah, when it comes to a pure assassin with the basketball in his hand, Booker is right up there with the best. And I'm talking about any top scorers historically in the NBA. Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, he's right there. He's a bucket guy. And he's got the mentality and the talent to do it. And once he senses that, he can take advantage of the defense, he's very agile with the basketball. He knows how to use his body. He knows how to draw fouls. He's patient. He never picks up his dribble till he's able to make a decision. And he's strong, and he's a pure shooter when he gets going. So he's not going to be stopped unless he's double-teamed and get the ball out of his hands. And when he's going on a night like tonight, it just happened to happen during the playoffs in Game 6, and they shot the hell out of the basketball collectively.
When you look at this team, they ran their plays with precision. There was no hesitation to how they moved the basketball. They knew exactly where they wanted to be on the court. The players knew, and they were there. And it's amazing when you playing that well and that good in the playoffs in a hostile environment. They didn't care. They came out and said, we're going to run our offense, and we're going to try to run the Lakers off the court. And it's hard in the playoffs to run your offense with that precision, because you're as a defensive team, you're planning for this team. But if you watch Devin Booker come off those picks, you watch Devin Booker, they had a whole game plan once Devin Booker got hot. Every play went to him. You know, it was drives and kicks. You know, you would say, if you tell me Chris Paul only had 8 points in this game, I'm saying we won this game. You know, but it was just too much Devin Booker, and they had no way to stop him.
Let's talk Lakers, guys. Here's the bottom line. They didn't shoot the ball well enough. All year, mostly. Outside of that start where they were on fire, first couple months, they really struggled. They struggled down the stretch, and they struggled in this series.
Yeah.
Just 30% from three, James. They weren't consistent enough shooting the basketball, and they didn't hit the timely ones. And to win championships and to win series, you have to. And we could break this game down a lot of different ways. We'll talk injuries in a little bit. But bottom line, when you're talking about what happened on that court, Lakers didn't shoot well enough to win.
Yeah, and what are the things that we've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years? We need shooters. We've tried to bring in, you know, Noel. We tried to bring in some shooters late in the season, just didn't work out. We finally thought that we had, you know, shooters with Wes Matthews and, you know, guys like that. Kuz shooting threes.
In the first 20 games, James, they were the best shooting team Lakers ever had.
We showed signs that the three was starting to come around. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. And in tonight's game, Geeter, I don't care who's on the floor. AD, LeBron, they had shots, and they just didn't go down. Matthews had shots. Schroeder had shots. They're not falling. And when threes aren't falling in the NBA, you're usually falling in the loss column.
You know, the thing about it is, I think sometimes, you know, we always talk about shooters. I just think the Lakers need a guy who can get buckets. Because if you look at Devin Booker, he gets buckets. He's a shooter, but he can get buckets inside the three, outside the three. And for the Lakers to, you know, be successful, you got to have someone who can get buckets, because these guys now are dependent on the three ball so much. And when that's not falling, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So they need to find a way with someone drive, get a two, get some buckets, and just play basketball. But they depend on the three so much, and it's starting to hurt them.
When you see the train go off the tracks, you know it. And you try to piece it back together. And that's what we saw. I keep going back to where this series turned. You know, Suns get game one, kind of expected, right? You knew they'd come out and fire. They haven't been in the playoffs in 11 years. Lakers grab game two in Phoenix. They get to split. That's what they need. They win game three. All of a sudden, they have a hold on the series, and you're thinking, okay, Lakers are in control here. It's not going to be easy, but the Lakers got the upper hand. They got home court, up 37-26 in the second quarter, looking pretty good. They go in one of their droughts, game four, and then AD gets hurt. And it was interesting. It was like, 50 seconds left at half. They're down 4. But the way the teams came out in that third quarter of game 4, the series was changed. The Lakers had to look like they knew something with AD being out. And they just didn't have any look like, hey, we got to fight. We can still win this game, go up 3-1. Flip side of that, Chris Paul has his best game. The Suns smell blood in the water, James, and they attacked. We know what happened in game 5, and we saw the way they came out in game 6. They saw it, they went and got it. And the Lakers just never recovered after that injury.
And it wasn't that the Suns, in my opinion, it wasn't that they saw that the Lakers, that Davis went down.